New week on the call up, but we are continuing to recap what was an amazing minor league baseball season. I should say, though, Arizona Fall League is starting today. So happy Arizona Fall League opening day to all those who celebrate. I know you all will be celebrating with us as we'll be out there later this week. But we wanted to do one last kind of just tie a bow on the 2024 season. Of course, we're going to continue to look back at the season as we hammer through the rest of our prospect lists, as we continue to talk about the Rule 5 draft as that gets closer and all these different things. But in terms of recognizing the best performers and maybe a little bit of redundancy with the names that have just been so prevalent this season, we wanted to finally just sharpie in the players who deserve to have the designation on this show. And there's going to be a lot of overlap, I think, with a lot of other outlets, because I think this year was as clear cut as maybe any on a couple fronts in terms of, who the best hitters and pitchers were. But that's why we also added our own niche awards. We did some breakout side of things as well. And we didn't want to have 100% overlap. So we both brought some names on some of the breakout side of things as well. And as always, you have myself, Aram Layton, and Jack McMullen. Jack, I got to see you very quickly yesterday, which was nice, or 2 days ago, I guess. Because normally when I say bye to you, I'm like, all right, see you in like 4 months, but I'll see you several times a week on Zoom or whatever it may be. But I'm going to see you again very soon out there in Arizona. I'm excited for opening day, but I'm also very excited to recap the best performers and really solidify the award winners here.
Yeah, very emotional moment from Aram Layton. I saw some vulnerability from him at about 12:45 outside Bar Sienna in the West Loop a couple days ago. But he was like, "I don't have to say bye for a long time now," and I was like, "Wow, that's very soft and nice of you to say. That's awesome."
You play me out. Like if people don't know any better, they're gonna think I'm the biggest curmudgeon ass of all time by the way that you paint me on here.
No, the pizza was great at Bar Sienna, I will say. But no, it was kind of nice because it's like usually I'll see you and Peter and the rest of our guys at the JB events, and then it's like, okay, time to go into my bunker for another 3 months. But I am very excited to get out to Phoenix. Number one, because I think I need some color in my life here. So I'm very excited to put my sunglasses to good use again. But number two, I'm very excited to see an Xavier Isaac again and a Trey Morgan live, because we really didn't get the opportunity to appreciate Trey Morgan when we saw him. And this will be my first time getting an in-person look at Jack Caglione. And, you highlighted Grant Taylor as the premier pitcher to watch in the Arizona Fall League. That's huge for my White Sox agenda. I'm really fired up to get out there.
It's absolutely huge. I think there's a lot of implications for the White Sox farm, and I think in an exciting way out there. And I don't know if we have all of the probables. I think we only have one game, if I'm not mistaken, today. Are there more? We'll do a full preview and all that good stuff. But I know we got Surprise versus Mesa, which is Leandro Lopez versus Jake Walkinshaw. So not the premier matchup, but my favorite part is sometimes you just end up not really knowing what you're going to go see on the mound, and you end up seeing somebody that can really throw. And I think when you look at what Walkinshaw did at points this year, I'm interested to even see what he can do out of the Diamondback system. Probably one of the names that we overlooked because he's older. But sometimes there's these 28-year-old guys that got a later start, and you're like, whoa, wait, this guy could actually be a dude. So I'm excited to just get this thing going, and we'll have plenty of video for you out there. But jumping into the awards,
Yes,
and really just getting things going on the top end of things. We'll go quick on this front because we've already made it abundantly clear, and so has everybody out there. I mean, you got to go with the same guys, I think, on the hitter and pitcher of the year. I figure we get that out of the way first, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff, if that's okay. I know that we have the timestamp set up. I just realized that as I said it, but we can reshuffle that a little bit. We'll start with hitter of the year.
Paste for me, yeah.
We'll start hitter of the year. Christian Campbell. Very, very, very simple here. What's a new way that we can really dissect what Christian Campbell did to make it very clear that there was really nobody else that could win this award? I think there's a few different things to me that stand out. The fact that the production did not really slow down by a level really solidified it for me. Whether you're looking at it from a prospect perspective, which I think that should absolutely also make you feel better about, whatever doubts there may be. But I think also just from the perspective of, okay, what season was objectively the most impressive? I think it has to be the one that climbed as many levels as anybody and didn't see any drop off. If there was a marginal drop off at each stop, like I'd understand it, but not really up until he got to AAA, where there was maybe that marginal drop off. And I think that mostly came at the end of the year, where I think just naturally he was also just running out of gas because this was his first full season, which is the craziest part in
Yeah.
professional baseball.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's probably the thing, and that's the unique angle that you can attack with Christian Campbell. Um, when I think about guys that are leveling up, it's very hard as a hitter to go high A to AAA. As a pitcher, it happens consistently. There's going to be 5, 6 guys in a given year that will do that because they're just throwing too well and they're better than the competition. But hitters, every organization in baseball wants to see you settle in against a certain level of pitching. And Campbell did more than settle in at every single level. His worst spot was 19 games in Worcester, in which he hit 4 homers and drove in 17. He had an 898 OPS in
No,
AAA.
that's not great.
No, it's not good, but like it was awesome when he had a 1045 across 2 months in Portland and when he had a 976 across 2 months in Greenville. Like, this is just what he did. I think the only other guy in minor league baseball this year that, saw success, saw tangible success at as many levels as Campbell as a hitter was Bryce Eldridge.
Yeah.
And Campbell was far more dynamic. Like, Eldridge proved to be one of the premier power bats in minor league baseball. He's a first baseman. Campbell plays a little bit more premium of a position, and he showed this well-rounded game where he had 20 homers and he swiped 24 bags. And oh, by the way, he hit 330. And oh, by the way, he got on base at a 440 clip. So I think the way to describe it that is like unique is this guy climbed more levels with immense success than any other all-around player in minor league baseball.
Well, and I love you mentioned the defensive thing. Like, he's definitely going to need to find a spot where he can play, consistently at the big league level, and you trust that the glove's going to hold up there, and whether that be center field, second base, whatever it may be. But this year that he had was like simultaneously on the defensive side of things, he was playing all over, trying to
Yeah.
figure out where he's best defensively and trying to get acclimated to all these different spots, including playing a shortstop, whether it be good or not a great shortstop. Like, he's moving all over, either trying to survive at short, playing a little center, playing second, like doing all that while continuing to mash the way that he had, and
Yeah.
also being somewhat of a factor on the base paths. Like, it just was one of the most impressive years, especially relative to expectations, right? So, like, we wanted to avoid redundancy. Obviously, he's the breakout guy as well, but I
Right.
think you would rather be the hitter of the year, the MVP, and then somebody else can have that secondary breakout award. But the other thing that really stands out to me is how much better he was than everybody else. Like,
Yeah.
that's the other side of it. Like, offense, I mean, at the lower levels at points was not great. I mean, there was some areas when we talk about the Southern League, but there were some other leagues where offense was a little hard to come by at the lower levels. He had a 180 WRC plus this year across every level. Struck out less than 20% of the time. And just for reference, like, from in regards to prospects, is Mickey Gasper, his org mate and teammate in AA and AAA, had a 165 WRC plus. He's 28 years old. So if you really shift your focus from there, Ben Rice is the next highest at 163, and he's a guy that ended up playing his way into the starting lineup in the middle of the order at points for the New York Yankees, who are the favorite out of the American League. You have Mike Bovee as well, who I think a lot of his numbers are really, I think, catapulted by what he did in high A. Then
Yeah.
still was really good in double A, but you saw a normal, I think, drop off where there was an adjustment there. And then Luke Keyshaw, who we'll get to, and Trey Morgan, who you mentioned. But there's a big drop there, right? We're talking about a 180 WRC plus from Christian Campbell, and then the drop to 165 with Mickey Gasper, who's not a prospect really. Then
Right.
Ben Rice at 163, Mike Bovee at 161, and it goes down from there. So he was just comfortably better, 20% better than everybody else.
Well, and another way to contextualize that is when you just go by qualified hitters in minor league baseball, regardless of level, when it comes to WRC plus, Christian Campbell is third in minor league baseball with that 180 that you're talking about. The rest of the top 15 were all DSL guys.
Yeah.
It's 14 guys in the Dominican Summer League, and then a guy that got 517 plate appearances.
I sorted all those guys out. Once
Fair.
I
Okay,
sorted by 300 plate appearances to get all the
I
DSL
get it.
guys
So, like,
out.
we're talking about a 194 WRC plus from Emil Morales in the Dodgers system and 201 plate appearances. We're talking about Reynel Rodriguez, who had 184 plate appearances. And then it's Christian Campbell at 517.
Yeah.
he was in a different league. Like, he was on a different level than everybody else in full season minor league baseball. This was a easy pick.
One more just fun stat for you too. The fact that like he is this unorthodox swing, like you'd think that maybe he's a free swinger. Like I think if I only showed you a clip of him hitting a home run, you'd probably say, "Oh, that guy's probably a free swinger."
Oh, he
He's
swings
not,
at everything. Yeah,
and
exactly.
he doesn't. He walks a lot. We mentioned he didn't strike out. In terms of OBP, he was tied with Mickey Gasper for second in minor league baseball, minimum 300 plate appearances. First was Luke Adams, who edged them out 443. Luke Adams in the Brewer system, 439 for Christian Campbell. So, I mean, Luke Adams gets the top spot because he was hit by 40 something pitches this
Right.
year. And again, that's not to take anything away from him, but Christian Campbell, like he was right there, like 0.04 points away, despite not getting hit 800 times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that he's able to draw these walks, the fact that he was able to hit 330 as well, like it's one of the most impressive seasons relative to expectations, but just in general that I think we've seen in a while. And one more note on just the Red Sox system and how many guys swung it well this year. Guess who's fourth in OBP?
Probably Roman.
No, which is actually a
No?
great guess. He's going to be not too far off.
Who?
It's Chase Mydroth.
Oh, yeah. He was a
Four
walking machine.
437 OBP, a 19% walk rate, and a 13% K rate. The Red Sox have some fun, kind of scrappy, underrated bats throughout that system on
Yeah.
top of the guys that, we know about and we talk about plenty.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So this was an easy one. I also think Cy Young was an easy one.
Yeah, very easy. And we'll do something similar where we'll dive into just relative to his peers, how ridiculous some of these numbers were and are. But it's got to be Quinn Matthews, right?
Yeah.
And this is another. I think they're very similar in regards to the year that they had, where it was middle round pick. Um, Expectations you can't convince me were extraordinarily high for either coming into this year. I
Yeah.
think both teams felt like they maybe found a value where they got them, but both I think clearly grinded in the offseason. You had Christian Campbell who really worked to add bat speed and impact. And you have a Quinn Matthews who really worked to add velocity. And we saw that. And I mean, similar, just ridiculous leaps, but then still able to execute the same way where Christian Campbell didn't lose the bat to ball somehow. And Quinn Matthews did not lose the ability to throw strikes in that Cardinal system. So a guy who just saw as big of a leap as we've talked about, 200 strikeouts, which you can add the context to in terms of like how often we've seen that in the minor leagues and doing it across several levels. I mean, I don't think anybody climbed more this year other than
Enriquez.
than the kid that got bombed yesterday for the Dodgers. Yeah, Enriquez. I mean, you have him starting in low A and finishing the year in trips. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just crazy stuff from Matthews, who I think should be a candidate to if he doesn't have a chance to break camp, because I think he did hit a little bit of a wall in AAA. He should be a candidate to be up there as soon as possible for the St. Louis Cardinals next year, because he gives them something that they really don't have, which is a strikeout oriented lefty.
Yeah, I'm trying to find like guys that. So Quinn Matthews climbed 4 levels. Cade Morris is another guy that climbed 4 levels, but he might have had an injury in there with a rehab. But like aside from that, there's nobody else here that climbed to 4 different teams that is anywhere close to the tops in innings pitched here. He had a year that has not been replicated by many. And you mentioned the strikeout numbers. It's in the write up because he was obviously leading the first team all MILB in terms of the pitching ranks. But it's Quinn Matthews in 2024 and Brandon Pfaadt in 2022 in terms of 200 strikeout seasons in minor league baseball since 2011, when 3 guys did it. It was Trevor May, Matt Moore, and I just said it, I think Edward Cabrera with the Rockies.
Cabrera.
Yeah, and he beat Moore and Trevor May in that one too. So we're talking about 12 years. We're talking about a dozen years where 2 guys have done it and fought through 167 innings that year and got 218 punchouts. Like Matthews threw 143 and got over 200 strikeouts. Just an insane year from a guy that I thought was going to get to 200 minor league innings before he got to 200 minor league strikeouts.
I know, and that is a great point. I think that is that is as good of a way to summarize. And whether that be over multiple seasons or whatever it may have been, I absolutely out of the draft would have taken 200 innings before 200 strikeouts
Yeah.
for Quinn Matthews professionally. And that just shows you how quick things can change, especially going into your first pro season. I always think first full pro season, like the first chance that you have to have an off season to work for that first full pro season, I think you can see some major changes. And then I think one off season after that is that one other time where, of course, guys will always make adjustments, especially now with how much talent there is. You'll see a 25, 26-year-old make an adjustment. All of a sudden things click. But I think those are the years where like either going into that first full pro season or all of the intel that you get from how that first full pro season goes and the off season after that, those 2 years, I think you can see some huge leaps. And but I don't know if we'll really see one as big as this one very often. What stands out to me also is 143 innings, 143 and a third, only 8 home runs as well.
Wow.
And I think that's a really big part of this whole thing, because having that vert fastball that really plays at the top and with the velocity that he has now as well, like that's a guy that's going to need to keep the ball in the yard. And I think the fact that hitters have to respect slider, changeup, which that's one of the better changeups in the minors. And then, even some other spin, you can mix in a curveball as well. Like you just can't be dialed up for that fastball. And it's just going to get on you so much quicker. And really, it just seems like guys are not able to cheat for that. And that's why he was able to keep the ball in the yard. But
Yeah.
I mean, among pitchers who threw at least 130 innings, he was 5th in ERA, trailing only Austin Peterson, Caden Dana, Andrew Morris, and Ian Seymour. And I think about like if you had Quinn Matthews in the Southern League all year,
He
what would
might have
his,
a sub 1.
I mean, his numbers would have been outrageous. And in terms of FIP among pitchers who, threw at least 130 innings, he was second to only Austin Peterson as well in the Cleveland Guardians system. And through these, like through looking at this, I just continue to be reminded that Austin Peterson, I know he's 24 and I know he started the year in high A, but Austin Peterson, man, he had a really good year. And it just seems like it can be another Guardian's arm that all of a sudden gets up to the big leagues and eats innings. That guy was really special this year as well. But Quinn Matthews doing it at 23 and getting up to AAA and climbing all the levels like he did. Sub 1 whip. Like you can look at just about every single number. And what's really unfortunate about it is if it weren't for, I think, running into that AAA wall a little bit, like he could have easily just stayed in AA. I'm glad he got to triple. Don't get me wrong. But from like the statistics, fun with numbers perspective,
Right.
if he never got to AAA and made a few more starts in double, I mean, these numbers would have been, I think, in their own realm.
Now, counter, we just made a huge point about him climbing 4 levels from low A to AAA. And like that is the endearing thing about the AAA call up. So
no doubt. And exactly. So he can't play both sides. Last number of pitchers who threw at least 130 innings, strikeout rate, it's Quinn Matthews at 35.4%. That's tops in minor leagues. The next closest is Miguel Uyola.
yeah, D-backs kid,
Houston,
but it's Ullola, right? I would think maybe Uyola, right? Because the 2 L's is the Y. Yeah,
31.1%. That's a full 4.3% below where Quinn Matthews was at. Then you had Parker Messick at 30%, and then Mason Barnett at 28.5%. So you have 3 pitchers who threw minimum 130 innings with a 30% K rate or higher, and I mean 0 above 35%, and that, or excuse me, only 1, then that being Quinn Matthews.
Also, tip of the cap to Parker Messick and the Guardians organization. Like, dude, I did not think that he had this many Ks in him. Like, I was high on Parker Messick because I thought he could be an innings eater and like a little unorthodox, but the fact that he ran a K rate over 30%, I don't really understand.
I think I sent you something early in the year because you had been so high on Messick, and I was like, dude, the fastball characteristics are kind of nutty here. And I mean, look at what that resulted in. So between him and Peterson, we talked about Davenport, like they've got so much depth now in this system as well. As shocker with the Guardians. So I mean, that's why they're always,
don't forget about Nikhazy, who pops up in some of these queries as well.
Yeah, and Cantillo doing what he did at the big league level at the end of the year. I mean, just really fun stuff always brewing there in Cleveland. Next topic, next area. We'll go breakout or org of the year. I'll let you call it.
I'm thinking because we're doing like the top of the top. Maybe we should just do org and then we do breakouts.
Let's do it.
Okay. So where do you go on this?
I mean, I know where you're going, and I don't think I can really go anywhere else other than maybe Cleveland, just
Yeah.
because of the depth pitching wise. Like I just think how many performers they had
Yeah.
was pretty crazy. I think if you look at Boston and how many offensive performers they had, I think that was crazy. But there's a lot of different criteria, and I think it's kind of a few different things. I think that could go into org of the year. Obviously, performance of the teams is going to matter here. Where are they competing for a playoff spot, or are they competing for a championship at every level? That's
Right.
generally going to be certain organizations there. But I think it's also, did you have performers and like intriguing prospects at every level?
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean like prospect intrigue, because of course, like certain teams that have better farm systems and draft higher like are going to have that. But I think just performers, guys that were putting up numbers at every level.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple teams that just had intrigue at every single level, even whether it was emergent or just the fact that they entered this year with a deeper system.
Exactly. So, credit to Cleveland, no doubt about it. But I'm going to make the pitch for this organization. And I think it's going to be pretty hard to refute, with anybody else. And try in the YouTube comments, like try and talk me off of the Tampa Bay Rays being the organization of the year, because I firmly believe it was a landslide that the Tampa Bay Rays were the best organization in minor league baseball this year. I'll start with the transactional things, who they added. Via the draft, Theo Gillen tooled out high school bat in the first round, and Emilian Petrie out of the University of Kentucky, who was killing in the SEC. They added him in the second round. Via trade, and we know they sold a little bit here. They added Aiden Smith, Brody Hopkins. They just got Ty Cummings as well in the Arozarena deal. Dylan Lesko came back. Jackson Bowmeister came back. Mac Horvath is now a Ray. Homer Bush is now a Ray. Matthew Etzel is now a Ray. How about Hunter Biggie, who looks awesome in that
Mhm.
bullpen? Ty Johnson, who was killing in Bowling Green after the trade. And what, I'm missing one more, I think. No, I think I got them all there. But
As long as you
um,
said Aiden Smith, that's all I care about.
Aiden Smith, Brody Hopkins, that's all I care
Yeah.
about too. Now we move up. The guys that were already there that had this breakout. Braylor Guerrero is, I know, a guy that you really like and a top
Mhm.
100 prospect. He showed out. He proved that he is that top 100 prospect. Gary Gill Hill came out of nowhere
Yeah,
with
dude.
pitcher. Like, he killed this year, logged over 100 innings, and I mean, nobody was barreling him up. Yoniel Cure logged his third straight season with a sub-3 ERA. He looks like a legit pitching piece for the Tampa Bay Rays moving forward. And I think the thing that puts them over the top, when you look at WRC plus, OPS leaders by organization, chances are you're going to see an Albert Almora Jr. near the
Yeah.
top, or you're going to see, like just a guy that's kind of hanging out and like been there for a while. You'll have a guy that isn't a top prospect at or near the top. And sometimes your top prospects are nowhere near the top of your organization because they have a down year. They're organization wide WRC plus leaders this year among full season affiliates. Trey Morgan led the way at a 158. Braden Taylor was second at a 144. Xavier Isaac was third at 143. Carson Williams was fourth at 142. Chandler Simpson was fifth at 141. Bobby Seymour, AAA guy, sixth at 140. And seventh was Dominic Keegan at 138. Six of their top seven in WRC Plus are arguably six of their top 8 position player prospects. Like, every top prospect performed well in the Tampa Bay Rays organization. And they were dealing with the Southern League. They were dealing with the South Atlantic League. Like, this is a thing that
Yep.
they had to deal with. But the WRC Plus shows that they all had amazing years. The fact that they added and the guys that were already there were this good, I think it's a landslide.
Okay. And I think you made a fantastic argument. And through that, you gave me a couple like thoughts where I'm like, wait, I think I got one org that could kind of answer some of those things
Yeah.
that didn't sell. The Brewers, I think
Mhm.
performance wise, are close. And when you talked about the level thing, that's what spurred the Brewers for me, because you can go down to the DSL and you have Jesus Made,
Yeah.
who's one of the best performers in minor league baseball. But then you also have Luis Pena, 17-year-old in the DSL who had a 175 WRC plus and walked as much as he struck out. But what I love is it's not just there, right? Eric Batanti, who
Mhm.
they drafted over slot to be able to sign him away from college. Monster dude that they started the complex as a project, gets up to low A and actually holds his own in his age 18 season, puts up a 148 WRC plus between those two levels. We talked about Luke Adams, who had a 154. How about Cooper Pratt, who at 19 years old has really solidified himself as, a top 100 caliber prospect here with a 126 WRC plus as a 19-year-old in low A and high A. And then Yafri Rodriguez, he turned in a 117. You had Tyler Black, who just continued to put together good numbers in the minor leagues. You're just waiting to see it all come together in the major leagues. Juan Baez continues to be a contact savant. And that's not even mentioning like a Jod Hare, I hope I can say this.
Arenamo. Yeah, I think it's Arenamo.
125 WRC plus in high A.
Yeah.
Isaac Collins in triple doing good things up there as well and earning his way onto the big league and postseason roster. So that side of it's interesting. I think where they come up a little bit short, and I think where the Rays probably edge them out is the pitching side probably is a little bit more like intriguing from a starter's perspective.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that the Brewers didn't counter with, I think, some decent arms, right? You have the emergence of Craig Yoho, who was the best reliever, I think, in minor league baseball this year. You have reliever Jacob Mizorowski, who was very, very fun. Logan Henderson turned in a great year and pitched his way all the way up to the upper levels, a 3.32. How about Chad Patrick?
Yeah, I was going to say,
I think was the best. Was he the best pitcher in AAA?
Probably, yeah.
Like in terms of just like full season, because he was there for so long. In terms of like who had the best numbers in AAA, I think if you cumulatively added it up, probably him. And then you have a few other arms in the fold there that I think had nice seasons. So I probably lean towards the Rays, but I think the Brewers at least hedge that landslide that we were thinking it could be.
Fair. Now, counter to the counter is all of these top prospects. Like you mentioned, Yafri Rodriguez in a 117. I mentioned Dominic Keegan being 7th among their prospects, and he had a 138. Like everybody was awesome. And I know that there are some 150s in there, but like everybody here is like 140, which is crazy.
Well, yeah, and I think that's why the Rays just a little bit more impact, a little bit more of the like jump off the page stuff.
Yeah.
But look out, because a lot of the names that I just mentioned, I also think with the Rays more balanced throughout the entire org. What's scary about the Brewers though is a lot of those guys I named are all in the lower levels. They've got a wave of freak shows coming, and they're approaching it very similarly to the Rays, where they don't want to have a bunch of prospects that they're going to have to add to the 40-man sooner rather than later. And, they're in the driver's seat on that front too. So it's really fun. I think these are two teams that are going to be very good for a long time because they've got those waves of talent coming back. And the Rays had to kind of go out and trade and acquire because there was a little bit of a gap in the waves. But the Brewers right now, I mean, it seems to be like they've got that draft machine and the IFA machine churning right now. And then we're going to see that next wave come up. And I think next year it's going to look very similar to, what we saw with the Rays org in terms of those 150s at the high A, double A level with some of these guys.
Could totally see that. It's like the golden generation, which I'm still waiting on for the U.S. men's national team.
Oh, I'm done waiting on the golden generation.
We've got the right skipper now. I don't know how to say his name. Pochettino. I have no idea what it is, but he's the guy to get the boys right.
I'm sure.
Breakouts now. Yeah.
Yes.
I think we should take a break before that, though. All right, Aram Layton, who is your breakout hitter of the minor league season in 2024?
So I think this was the only one that wasn't clear cut. Like there's a lot of different, and I think it's in the eye of the beholder as well, right? We were talking about it. Like there's probably some players that some people might say, oh, this guy was definitely a breakout, but maybe we liked him a little bit more last year and he put together a 110 WRC plus. So it wasn't as much of a breakout. Or it could work the other way too, where it could be somebody that I think people were higher on that maybe we were lower on. And then we see what they did this year and like, wow, that's a breakout. So of course that's going to be a little bit in the eye of the beholder. I think the name that you have, which I know already, is definitely one of the directions I would have went. But I had to go with Jesus Mate. And even though he did it at the DSL level, this is just a degree of impact and excitement and raw data and like just visual like check marks as well in terms of what he can do in the box that I mean I can't really think about a DSL prospect that has really created this much helium and excitement within one season. And he played a lot of games for the DSL, and not a lot of guys will end up getting 50 in down there. But I think with how short the schedule is out there, you got to really make your mark. And you got to really, really stand out. And a lot of your ABs you're going to walk too. I think that's the other side of it as well. Is Made's so patient, and that was what stood out. But to also be as productive as he was, he didn't get outside of himself, and he still was able to draw 38 walks against 27 strikeouts while still swinging enough to turn heads to the degree that, okay, wow, this guy has number one prospect in baseball upside. When is the last time we've talked about a guy with number one prospect upside before he even gets stateside? And you know how much I love to squash that stuff because I think it's unfair to the player. And I think,
Right.
you'll hear all the BS that comes out of, the IFA cycle. I don't count that. That's a lot of agent speak. That's a lot of scouts trying to pat themselves on the back before anything's ever happened. I've had 5 scouts tell me they've signed the same player. Like that, there's a whole world out there that I think leads
Yeah.
to these narratives. This is different.
I've also seen 10 different generational talents have a 610 OPS when they get stateside.
Exactly. This is not that. And the reason why it's also different is you have Brewers officials talking about this guy like they've never really talked about guys at the lower levels. You have other teams, scouting departments and other teams' employees that I've talked to that have said, that guy's the real deal. Like it's a situation now where it's almost, if any team was talking trade with the Brewers, I don't even think they'd bother asking for Jesus. Not that the Brewers would ever be buyers,
Right.
but like the fact that this kid has already done that, I think he's the breakout for me because the breakout is more on the kind of prospect intrigue side as well. And so
Yeah.
just to highlight the numbers, by the way, 335, 462, 565 slash line this season. He walked 38 times, struck out 27, 6 homers, 6 triples, 9 doubles. I mean, just crazy stuff. And he did that while playing shortstop. And they moved him a little bit around. He played a little second and third as well. The defensive side will be interesting to see how that all goes. But he also ran a 90th percentile exit velocity of 104 miles per hour. And he's just scraping the surface of what he can be. And he's a switch hitter as well, too.
Yeah. I'm going to say it. Like, it's just right there. So I'm going to do it. He might actually be Jesus made.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Which it's so perfect.
It is. It's really perfect. And like, I'm cool with it. So, it's a really good shout. I went with a full season guy. And I know that this guy was a second round pick, but I went with a twin, and it's Luke Keyshaw. And I think Made was more loud in a consolidated sample. I'd say just like an overall smaller sample, like Made impressed a bit more. But for what Keyshaw did over, 464 plate appearances, by guys with 400 or more plate appearances, he was third in minor league baseball in WRC plus. Campbell 1, Cooper Ingle of the Guardians was 2, and then Keyshaw was 3. Keyshaw had that second round pedigree after an amazing year at Arizona State last year. And then, he's so at the end of the 2023 season, and he comes out and balls this year. And obviously he had, what was it, Tommy John surgery? He had that injury cut his season a little bit.
And
short.
he was playing through it though, too. Like that's worth noting. He was playing through that shit. Like that's why he was playing a lot of first and DHing at the end. They just finally said like, just do it now, man.
Yeah. I think this guy went from interesting to a serious bat that the Twins need to consider in their future this year. And that defines a breakout for me, at least. Like, Keyshaw is not going to be a top 40 prospect in baseball, but he's a top 100 prospect in baseball now. And I don't think a lot of people knew how to say his last name coming into this year. So that is like the essence of
including us.
Right.
I think we had a Keyshaw or Cashel conversation at some point when early in the season, I'm like, whoa, these EVs are up. And we were doing the twin system. Yeah. And then you saw that this guy added some strength and this guy made some mechanical adjustments the swing was a little wonky before, makes some adjustments and looks way more comfortable, but also started to hit the ball way harder. And early in the year, we had a home run to dead central that I think, or a little bit to the left of dead central, that it was hit harder than I think anything we had seen from Keyshaw before.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, he's already putting up new maxes like that, like higher than he was putting up with metal. Yep. This is probably going to be different. Did not think it would be this different though. Yep. I thought, okay, now he's going to be more 15 home runs instead of 10. As I thought, well, maybe he can flirt with 20 now that he's, added a little bit more impact. But this is totally different where it wasn't just the raw EVs that changed and it was the 109 to dead center off of Kevin Abel that I was like, okay, well, he didn't hit a ball 109 like all college season. That paired with the fact that it didn't come at any expense of his bat to ball. His approach is still elite. And he turned in the year that he turned in a 420 OBP, man, and that's through injury.
Yeah.
I will push back and say that I think he can become a top 40 prospect just off of accumulation and like solidifying the floor. The big question is going to be though, where is his defensive home? If he's a first baseman, of course he's not going to be a top 40 prospect. But remember, this was a guy that they were trying to get run in at center, so that he's a good athlete, right? Like he was stealing. Do you have the stolen base numbers in front of you?
Yeah, I can get him quick.
But like he can run. Like he's a good athlete. He was one of the more impressive wrestlers in his high school district. This is a dude that can learn a position. At the very least, will play second. I don't think he's going to play first.
Yeah,
but if he's playing an average center field or maybe even a decent left, with the versatility of being able to play second, I think that is a guy that could end up being in the top half of a top 100 list just because of the bat to ball, the approach, and the power being ample enough where the floor is just going to be so high that he could end up just playing his way into the top half of a top 100.
Yeah, so the numbers on Keyshaw, you mentioned the stolen bases. He was 23 for 29 in the stolen base department. He slashed 303, 420, 483. 102 games, 21 doubles, 15 homers. Like, this guy showed off that blend, and I hear you on the floor thing. Like, the question does become, where is he going to play? I'm excited to see what post-surgery Keyshaw does, because this year was kind of lost defensively.
100%. And I love the point that you brought up, though, about like this guy clearly, and of course, second round pick is going to be a big part of your focus as an organization, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's part of your 2026 plans, or even you're looking at 2025 and saying this guy could have a chance. The Tommy John surgery delays that process, but I think there was a level of urging him to potentially get the surgery now because they see him as a guy that can fly through the minor leagues and that can be a piece for them sooner rather than later. And you look at your situation in the infield,
right?
Not getting any younger at a couple spots. Like, they're going to need another wave of guys. That they're not going to spend much money. And this is one of their homegrown pieces here that could be a guy for them. I think there was a level of, hey, get this done now because we want you back in the second half of next year. And we want you hammering the outfield or whatever position that we think you can play because we think you can get up here soon. And everything about his game screams, I can climb quickly.
Yeah, and I think I know there was a reported Keyshaw hang-up in a Garrett Crochet deal at the deadline. I think the White Sox might really kick themselves at some point very, very soon when it comes to no Emmanuel Rodriguez or Walker Jenkins being a deal breaker there, because Keyshaw can be what you wanted in Miguel Vargas, and you're not going to get in Miguel Vargas.
That's for sure. That's absolutely for sure. So, pitching side, of course, Quinn Matthews could be the breakout. Again, we're not double dipping here. So I'll just get the obvious out of the way. Matt Tugboat Wilkinson. We can have a similar conversation of just like, hey, we've had so many discussions about this guy in the Guardian system and what he did this year.
Right.
But how about just as it pertains to other guys in the minor leagues? He was a candidate for minor league pitcher of the year.
Yeah.
And really, I think the only reason why he doesn't get it is just what Matthews was doing at higher levels, where I think if you kept Quinn Matthews at the same levels as, a Matt Wilkinson, I think the numbers would have been similar, if not better. But I mean, Wilkinson, I keep wanting to think he's older than he is, right? Like, he's 21 years old. It's not like he was a 24-year-old finesse lefty just beating up on lower level guys, which we see all the time. We don't know how it's going to translate to the big league level. It probably won't look anything like this when he gets there. But this is also not a guy that I think anybody was really expecting to get there. The fact that he led minor league, I don't care if he was pitching at the complex. The fact that he led minor league baseball in strikeout rate among qualified pitchers, and I think that's anyone that threw, I'm looking right now, anyone that threw more than 50 innings. He comfortably paced minor league baseball in strikeouts. Sorry, actually, I should say starters, because then you get the relievers in and you get like a Craig Yoho in there.
Right, it was like 47% or something.
Let's just make this clean and simple. Guys who threw 100 innings. It's Matt Wilkinson at number one, and it's a 37.6 strikeout rate.
Yeah.
He threw 118 2/3 innings this year. He had a 1.90 ERA. I mean, what's wild to me, though, is how 88 to 91, he's striking out 37.6% of batters. And again, I know that it's low A and high A, but he was doing this with inconsistent secondaries too. This guy clearly creates really difficult angles. He threw plenty of strikes. One of the best K to BB, the best strikeout to walk rate in the minor leagues among pitchers who threw at least 100 innings at 29.6. Strikeout minus walk, 29.6%. Next best was KC Hunt of the Milwaukee Brewers system at 28.4, and then Cole Drake at 28% in the Texas Rangers system, just edging out a Quinn Matthews at 26.8%. So just a ridiculous year. Again, I think has a very strong case for, minor league pitcher of the year.
Yep.
But, we lean towards a guy that did it across more levels. Last number on Wilkinson, a 168 opponent batting average, second among pitchers with at least 100 innings pitched, behind only Miguel Ullola, which I feel like we need to be talking more Miguel Ullola around here.
Right.
What a year from him as well in Double-A and the PCL in that Houston system. But
he's what? He's 24?
22.
22? Oh, damn. Yeah.
Yeah, walked 5.5 per 9. So that's something that.
Yeah, but Blake Snell's going to make a bag. So, I don't really have much to add on Wilkinson, but I feel like I don't think 200 Ks is arbitrary, and I don't think 4 levels is arbitrary. But if Quinn Matthews didn't get to AAA and he finished with like 194 punch outs, I think it's a real conversation for minor league pitcher of the year between Matthews and Tugboat. But the fact that he did get to that 200 threshold and he did get to AAA, I think made that clear cut that Matthews was the pitcher of the year. But if we had a ballot and you voted 1 through 10, I think it's unanimous 1 Quinn Matthews, unanimous 2 Wilkinson, and then everybody else kind of splits the rest of the votes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Maybe we get one little vote sprinkled in on Wilkinson, kind of like with the WNBA Rookie of the Year voting situation there.
Yeah.
But no, what the other thing that I love about what Tugboat did is it was never really like he had the 115 strikeout outing, which was outrageous, but it wasn't this inconsistency of like, 12 Ks here and then 4 and then 13 and 3. He was 7 or 8 every single time. He went through a stretch where he threw, just listen to this stretch between low A and high A. Opens up the season, 9 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, 9 strikeouts, 15, 5, 9, 8, 8, 8, 8, 9. Every day out there, he's getting 8 Ks. And the game, by the way, where he only had 5 Ks, 5 shutty, 2 hits. Just happened to not strike out as many.
He wanted to conserve pitch count that day.
Yeah, he's just trying to play around, try some different things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just wild year, and I cannot wait to see what it looks like in Double-A. But he did it in High A. He did it in the playoffs in High A, and he closed out the year, which this isn't even added into his statistics. So take his numbers and then add another 12 and a third innings, only 7 strikeouts, but in the last outing of the year. 2.19 ERA, by the way. It's only 3 earned runs in those 12 and a third innings. Last outing of the year, playoff, Lake County, 6 2/3, 2-run ball. When the stakes were high, and it was a fun environment out there like that. They wanted to win. So Tugboat, pretty awesome there. Cool to see him hold that velo too. Obviously he's going to need to be another tick higher, but throwing all these innings, he didn't really see a drop at all during the year either. It was still hovering at 89, 90. So if he can get to 91, 92, I think that makes a huge difference because clearly, again, there's a level of deception here and just level of pitchability that seems to just not sit well for hitters.
And he's going to be a fan favorite if he gets to the show.
If you go by Tugboat
and delivered. I think I'm getting a Wilkinson jersey when he gets to the show. That
might be one of the only jerseys I'll buy. I would love a Tugboat Wilkinson jersey. He's on the short list of guys. I would love to somehow get on the show sometime this off season. So I'm just
he's
putting
Canadian.
That out
we just have to get in contact. I'm sure he would say yes. He's from Canada. We're good.
Oh, he's a nice guy. Then we got to take advantage of that.
Yeah, you have to just find an avenue to communicate with him. But speaking of Canadians, Jonah Tong is my guy with the New York Mets. I'm sure a guy that we would love to have on. Vert machine. Wow, dude. Do you have the average IVB on his fastball?
I was already on my way, buddy.
Okay, good. I will give you the rest of the traditional rundown, and then I want the average IVB.
I knew you were dialed. I was ready. I was way ahead of you. but
Yeah,
I
there
love
we
it. I'll
go.
have that for you in a second. But
So
yeah, it's crazy stuff.
Tong, 113 innings this year between low A, 19 starts in high A Brooklyn, then double A Binghamton to wrap the year, 2 starts. By the way, 9 and a third, 3 earned in double A in his first taste of that. Tong was what, 7th round pick in 2022? He didn't throw in 22, Canadian prep guy. In 23, he throws 12 and 2/3 of the complex and then gets to St. Lucie for 3 small starts. And in 21 innings, he allowed 14 earned runs. He walked 22 guys in 21 innings last year. He had a 6 ERA. Tong was like, I don't want to say a non-prospect, but he was a non-factor in terms of, hey, you think about what's coming for the New York Mets pitching
It,
wise. It was not Tong.
he's a lower level project that I think only Mets officials are really talking about. Like,
Right.
and say,
A-
oh, they're giving him time. They clearly they thought they may have something here, but it was early on. I don't think they were expecting it even to the project to convert into results this quickly.
and then he breaks camp and goes to St. Lucie, low A. 18 and 2/3, no earned runs, 1 unearned run, 7 hits in 18 and 2/3, 36 Ks and 5 walks. On the year, 113 innings at a 3.03 ERA. He K'd 160. Opponents hit 204 against him and minimum 100 innings. You mentioned KC Hunt in Milwaukee. He was the only guy in minor league baseball with a better FIP than Jonah Tong. I'm not talking ERA right now because the 303 is not one of the better marks. Tugboat is ahead of him. But Matt Wilkinson, a 1.9 with a 2.69 FIP. Jonah Tong, a 303 with a 2.33 fielding independent pitching. So KC Hunt, Tong, and then Harleen Susana, Austin Peterson, and Quinn Matthews. Like, he was amazing. And it's so over the top, but that thing takes off. Was it over 20 IVB on
Oh
average?
yeah, it was.
Okay.
And it's 20. It is very over the top, and sometimes that can make it a little bit less. It won't play as well from a vert perspective, but he works down on the mound to where even though it's straight over the top, it's only a 6 foot flat release height. MLB
You
average is about 5'9". When you
you
get to like
made
6'4", 6'5" release height, then 20 inches of vert doesn't really mean as much.
yeah.
This means a lot. Like this is lively, and we talked about it. I sent you the video. Like, do you think the comparison to like the Tim Lincecum light mechanics is valid? Because
Yes.
he's also getting 6'6" extension. MLB average extension is 6'4", 6'5". But the fact that this guy at 6'1" with this much vert is also getting slightly above average extension, even if it's big league average extension, that's crazy to me. I would have expected it to be much shorter.
So I was gonna bring that up that you texted me, and it was the classic 1:30 AM text, like, "Jonah Tong is very Tim Lincecum." I was like, "Yeah, yep, no doubt,
Yep,
man. I
going to
love
bed.
that." Yeah, like, yeah, all right, time to go to bed. But I'm with you. I wish we had, like, StatCast ratings for
I
Lincecum. Like, I
I thought
wish we
about
could
that
go
right
back and
after I
find guys
texted
like
you
that.
about it, and I was like, "Man, I would love to know what the hell that shit looked like on Statcast and just
Yeah, but
on TrackMan."
I I I'm with you. Like, just watching the delivery, it is very shades of Tim Lincecum. I'm not going to say it's a carbon copy, but it's over the top. You work down on the mound. Lincecum, I don't know the exact height on Lincecum. It had to be sub 6, right?
Yeah,
Tim
yeah.
Lincecum was 5'11", but he extended like he's Zach Wheeler.
Well, and
Absolutely insane.
and you remember Lincecum, the big thing with his dad was like that he put the dollar on the ground, pick the dollar up, right? And if
Yeah,
you watch how Jonah Tong finishes, Jonathan can pick the dollar up on the floor. His
yeah,
arm, he finishes with his arm. He could touch his ankle, his left ankle. So it's the same sort of finish as well. And I think that over the top kind of slingshot delivery, when it's a smaller guy that gets vert and still somehow gets this extension, it gets on you so quick and you just don't see it. And then from that release point, it's either fastball that really explodes upwards, or then you got to deal with a downer curveball. And that's why I love how optimized the arsenal is for him, where now it's this straight down curve at 75, but it's so late breaking and so hard to differentiate out of the hand that hitters are geared up for velo, and then that thing just bites down off the table. But then being able to find the slider a little bit more and a changeup a little bit more this year made him a more complete pitcher. I think the
yeah.
Mets loved Jonah Tong because of his ability to spin it from that over the top, like downer curveball release point. But now he sees that velocity tick up, nearly 2 full ticks this year, which is a huge part of this. And he held that the whole year. So, 20 inches of vert from at 90 versus 92, 93, big
Mhm.
difference. And then also you mix in that slider and that changeup. I think the fastball is set up his curveball that has always been his bread and butter even better now because hitters have to cheat more. And he's made himself less one dimensional where it's not just north south. He can go a little east west too. Needs a little more consistency on the secondaries. That'll be the missing piece in terms of getting to like his ceiling, but it was good enough to where we saw him dominate a lot quite often this year. So I'd say the last thing is really just the little finer command things. But to sum up why he's a breakout guy, I mean, he fits the description in every, I think, every facet,
Yeah,
in every single way possible, whether it be the quality of the stuff, whether it be the numbers, or whether it be the prospect intrigue. He's clearly that kind of guy.
no doubt, man. We've got niche awards now. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Why am I getting a tweet at me saying, or Christian Crespo just texted me saying Painter is going to the AFL?
Painter is going to the AFL. That's awesome.
That would be the best. I was just thinking about it the other day. I'm like, he should be kind of ready to throw. Wow,
That would be awesome.
that
I-
would be.
I'd kill for a live look there.
Oh, that is so fun. All right, well, I hope that's true. I mean, Crespo's on it, man. He doesn't miss anything.
He
So
doesn't miss any. I mean,
yeah,
that dude's turnaround time is like snap of a finger. It's
he's
amazing.
quicker than our social guys.
He's amazing, and
Oh,
he does excellent work. He was doing the minor league hitter and pitcher of the week every week for us at justbaseball.com, and this guy helps as much behind the scenes with this show as anybody.
yeah, he's the man. He gives us a lot of great ideas as well. He is heading to the fall league. I just saw this tweet now, 40 seconds ago from MLB Pipeline. Crespo, you are incredible, man.
Crespo, tweet notifications for everybody.
Everybody. I love it. But so that's great. We'll be talking plenty about that. Let's go. Definitely a guy that I would love to try to get on the show at some point too.
Yeah,
Niche awards. Arizona Fall League prospect I'm most excited about now. Andrew
Andrew
Painter.
Painter, that's a good one. Yeah,
Um, I had it dialed up. Here we go. Actually, I got it dialed up now. So one thing I wanted to dive into, I'll save it for last actually. Patience Award goes to the guy who just doesn't ever expand the zone and has this relentless nature of not swinging no matter what and making it work. Surprise. It's Emmanuel Rodriguez with the Twins organization. I can't believe that this guy somehow cut his chase rate down even more. He is now chasing at a sub 10% clip. And the conversation had always been, well, passive versus patient. Well, now his chase rate's down even more. What I love is he's actually, I think, rectified the passive thing too. Like his approach is just better overall. Like it's not just, oh, okay, well, he's chasing us. Does that mean he's swinging less? Like I think he's picking his spots quite fine. And I think he's gotten comfortable in being that incredibly patient guy. A 9% chase rate, Jack. It's one thing to do that. Like Made was around there at the DSL. Very easy to not swing in the DSL. A lot of non-competitive pitches. Emmanuel Rodriguez did that between AA and AAA this year. And I know that it was an abbreviated season for him because he was hurt. Only played just about 50 games. A 9.5% chase rate is going to win you the Patience Award over here. I mean, that is just crazy stuff.
It's just hard to wrap your brain around. Okay, well, he doesn't swing at balls, but he swings at strikes. It's very hard to wrap my head around that. Where it's like, okay, if you don't swing at balls, I feel like you don't swing at strikes either, and you're just gonna swing like the overall swing rate. If the chase rate's at 9%, the overall swing rate should be at like 15, 16%, but I
Right.
know it's higher than that.
Right. And it's 32.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's zone swinging, right? Yeah, at a good enough clip. And just for context, right? Like we're able to track 450 pitches.
Yeah.
And he's only chasing 9.5% of that. So
Amazing.
just like, I mean, that is nuts stuff from a power hitter. So it really just comes down to staying healthy. Jesus Made was also, a candidate for the Patience Award. But when you're doing this at the upper levels as a power guy,
Yeah.
I mean, that's special stuff.
Yeah. Fair. Next one.
The Thick Air Award.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if I've seen this before. Jose Davila,
Okay.
Cardinal system, and I understand that he was throwing in a very thick air environment, being that it is the Florida State League.
Yeah.
But this Cardinals prospect, man, also sneaky, really good year overall. Like this dude threw 109 innings this year and did not surrender a home run.
Mm.
For reference, I don't think there's a single pitcher who threw 50 plus innings this year and did not surrender a home run. I mean, it's the Florida State League. He didn't throw anywhere else other than that. But to throw 109 innings and not allow a home run, there's something going there, man. Like and again, he had some really good starts this year, but I'm just shocked at the fact that he was able to keep the ball in the yard to that degree. 100 plus innings of no home runs is just wild stuff.
That's crazy. Yeah, I like it's hard to wrap your brain around, and you mentioned the pitcher friendly environment, but dude, at the end of the day, like these guys are going to get clipped every now and again, and there's going to be homers that have zero business getting out at any point. But like, shit, dude, Carl Kaufman allowed 34 homers this year. But like, yeah, I'm looking at home runs.
It's all DSL guys. If you look at
all DSL guys,
all of the pitchers who did not allow a home run this year are DSL guys, and then Jose Davila.
Yeah, and like Keyshawn Askew, who was a reliever that threw 64 and a third, but like Davila worked 100 innings.
Yeah, and if you go minimum, well, you said Askew was 64 and a third.
64 and a third.
If you go minimum 70 innings,
He's
it's
the only guy.
Davila.
That's crazy.
And you had two guys who gave up one home run: Garrett Schonel, White Sox guy, and Nick Sando between the complex and low A.
Damn.
So I mean, and then you had Luis de Avila who gave up 2 home runs. But
nice
Davila, 0 home runs. 0 home runs against 113 strikeouts is just crazy stuff. The funny part, though, got to the postseason. First postseason start, he gave up a home run. But we're not going to count those. It's a regular season award.
Yeah,
regular season award here, and that's what he gets. Bowling ball award.
Okay.
Jack Kochanowicz.
Oh yeah, Kohanowitz. Yeah.
62% ground ball rate.
Yeah.
If there's a guy that's going to get away with the 3 Ks per 9, 2 walks per 9 type of line that we're looking at, I think it's Kohanowitz.
Yeah.
62% ground ball rate is crazy. I think for every fly ball, he gets 3 ground balls. So, I mean, I think more than that. I think it's 3.5. That's probably why the Angels, it's one of the reasons why, that they probably thought that he could get called up and survive, and he did. I mean, threw 65 innings at the big league level and pitched to a 3.99. This guy's going to, I think, just be able to eat innings and get ground balls. I don't know how many strikeouts he gets or whatever it may be, but to get 62.3% ground balls in 102 innings, that's pretty ridiculous stuff there. And nobody was touching that in the minor leagues. You had Harlan Susana not too far away, which makes it even crazier because he's able to get the whiff too. And that's why I think he's clearly one of the top right-handed pitching prospects in the game. But this makes me feel like Kohanowitz can stick as a kind of a throwback innings eater starter, because
I think so.
I mean, it's just so many ground balls.
We saw enough of it, I think, at the big leagues to prove that. And why can't this guy go 6 innings, a 3-run ball every time out? That is something very valuable for the LA Angels over the next 5 years, 6 years that they get Kohanowitz. I'm totally with you. I think that this guy can absolutely be that 5 innings eater. And I'm not talking 5, like I'm talking 5 starter, where all of a sudden this guy's threw 8 innings, a 2-run ball, and he saved your bullpen before you get to the ace. And I have no idea who the ace of the LA Angels is going to be, but I know it's not going to be Kohanowitz. Like they can get innings from Kohanowitz at the back of their rotation for a long time.
Yep, I totally agree. And then the last award is the Joshua Mears Award for hardest hit homer of the year, and it goes to Joshua Mears.
Nice.
Who hit an 118 mile per hour home run this year. If only he didn't chase at a 36% clip and have a 50-something% contact rate. But we're here to celebrate.
Yeah.
118 miles per hour is the hardest hit home run at any level that I was able to track this year.
Damn.
And I feel pretty confident that means it was the only one at any level. 118 to dead central is crazy stuff. Yeah. And it just makes me like, he had a 700 OPS this year. We're inching.
Baby steps.
But man, like, it's just so fun to watch when this dude does connect. Honorable mention for just weirdo like power numbers from a guy that did not produce that much. Jared Wegner in the Yankee system. he hit 2 home runs, 116 and 117 miles per hour this year. He also hit one 113. He had 9 home runs the whole season. That's the craziest thing I've like ever to me. Also, one of Jared Wegner's home runs, the
Yeah.
117 mile per hour one, I clocked it from contact to when it hit the wall in left field where it would have actually killed somebody. It got out in 2.6 seconds.
Dude,
I don't know if I've ever seen a home run get out in 2.6 seconds because it was just a low line drive 117.
that's crazy.
2.6 seconds. So fastest home run of the year goes to Wegner, but the Josh Mears Award again goes to Josh Mears, 118 mile per hour homer.
I love that. All right, I will take you through my niche awards here quickly. Um, my first one is the Christian Wood Award, the Shaq, I was unfamiliar with your game. And that, call it bias however you want, is Bubba Chandler. I did not expect Bubba to be one of the 3, 4 best pitching prospects in all of baseball this year. I thought that this was a fun project that just scrapped the two-way thing, and he's got a cool fastball. But the fact that this guy showcased pitchability and in 119 and 2/3 innings had a 3.08 ERA and opponents hit under 190 against him, and he leveled up when he got to AAA, I was floored at how advanced of a pitcher he was. So that's my Christian Wood Award. Acknowledge.
I mean, in terms of climbers, I don't think there really was anybody that climbed more. I mean, him and Sproat,
Yeah.
but Sproat, I think there's just a level of like he was such a sprayer and just having it all come together, and
Yeah.
it was a little bit different. I mean, Bubba still climbing, considering how high. Like we were higher on Bubba coming into this year. I still think he climbed as much as anybody because he's going to be top 20 prospect for us in the end of season update.
Well, and he dropped. Remember, he dropped at the beginning of the year because he was throwing his fastball all the time, and he had some blowups before he hit the shelf. After he got off the shelf and did some of that, preventative maintenance on his elbow after that, fractured funny bone that we talked
Yeah,
about in high school. I mean, he was as good as anybody in minor league baseball after he
I
came
mean,
off the shelf.
first 10 starts of the year, he threw his fastball 70% of the time, and he had a
Yeah.
slider that he was landing for a strike at a 49% clip.
So at the
Clearly, that
first
was we didn't
update,
know. We didn't know at the time. Had to have been discomfort related, I'd
right?
imagine. And then seeing what he was since then really hammered that home. So I mean, I'm with you. I wasn't familiar with his game to that degree either.
Yeah. So that's my winner of the Christian Wood Award. The next one is the Alabama Tua Award. Do you remember Tua Tagovailoa's freshman year? Jalen Hurts was really good, and Hurts is probably the better quarterback. But everybody was saying this backup might be better
It
than
came
him.
in the natty.
He came in the Natty and showed it. So the Alabama Tua Award goes to Kevin McGonigal of the Detroit Tigers. And the reason I say that is because they both are in the NFL. They're both max contract quarterbacks. I think it's a conversation between Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa. I think Hurts is probably the better quarterback as it stands right now. I have no idea. But all I'm saying is I think Clark and McGonigal is comparable. And we came into this year like it's Clark, it's Clark, it's Clark. Max Clark had a really good year. Hurts had a really good year at Alabama. Clark had a 794 OPS this year. He hit 280. He was 29 for 33 in the stolen base department. But McGonigal was one of the better infield prospects in minor league baseball.
Yeah,
This year, he slashed 309, 401, 452. That's an 853 OPS. He was 22 for 24 in the stolen base department in
which is
74
crazy.
games between low A and high A. I thought McGonigal invoked a lot of those similar feelings to Tua sitting on the bench at Alabama.
Well, the funny comparison there too is that Hertz is the speed guy that can do so many different things well and kind of fearless, right? Put his head down, and the way he plays the game is pretty
Right.
infectious. But I think you see that with Clark, where there's so much value beyond just the ability to hit.
Yeah.
Where with Clark, and that's why the prospect he's always going to be I think ranked a higher prospect, or at least for now, he's continues to be ranked higher because you have this elite speed and you have the glove in center field and all this. But then there's this level of, well, what's the goal here, right? Like the goal is to, as a quarterback, put the ball on the receiver and
Yeah.
make the right decisions and move the football. And then in baseball, it's like, what's the goal? The goal is to hit the ball, get on base.
Yeah.
And there's really not that many hitters in minor league baseball, period, this year that did a better job of just consistently hitting the ball and getting on base. McGonigal got on base at a 401 clip, but I mean, he ran an in zone contact rate of 91%. He walked twice as much as he struck out. He added some power. Like this was one of the most impressive hitters in minor league baseball this year. And nothing jumps off the page with a Kevin McGonigal from a tool perspective. But he'll surprise you. He's a little quicker than you think. He's a little bit more powerful than you think. And I'll tell you what, he's one of the best hitters that we've got in the minor leagues right now. And he's only going to get better. He just turned 20. I like that.
2 more awards. The Dallas Keuchel Award. I don't understand it, but it got him a Cy Young. Goes to Justin Crawford of the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I was thinking about the Bryce Elder Award, but Elder was in AAA this year. Keuchel carved out a very long career for himself. He made starts this year in the big leagues as a 36-year-old. Keuchel, when he was 27, 232 innings, he was a 20-game winner at a 2.48 ERA, and he won the Cy Young. Justin Crawford, Keuchel started the All-Star game that year, and his first pitch, he said, I'm going to throw it as hard as I can, and it was an 89-mile-an-hour dotted sinker. I don't get it. I didn't understand how it made sense. This could also be the Kyle Hendricks Award. I don't really understand it, but it worked. Justin Crawford, I don't really understand it, but at the end of the day, this guy hit 313 again and stole 42 bags again and had an 800 OPS again between high A and double A. You don't have to understand it with Justin Crawford. At a certain point, he's just good. And I feel like we're approaching that with Justin Crawford.
He had a higher ground ball rate than Jack Ohanowitz.
I know.
What? 62%. I don't get it.
But
I love it. I want to see him succeed.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I love it. I think that's a good one.
And then my last one is the Public Service Announcement Award. Jay-Z, allow me to reintroduce myself. Goes to Kumar Rocker. We couldn't do this episode without Kumar Rocker.
Yes.
We forgot how good Kumar Rocker was at Vandy. We forgot how good he was in Indy ball when he had to go do that with Tri-City. He K'd 32 in 20 innings in Indy ball after the whole Mets fiasco. And this year in the minor leagues, 36 and 2/3 innings, 55 Ks and 5 walks at a 1.96. Double A Frisco, after the quick rehab, 19 and 2/3, 1 earned run, 29 Ks and 3 walks. He was absolutely insane. And this was always here. And we knew that this was here. He's one of the better college arms that we've seen in a very long time. But because he did the indie ball thing and because he had Tommy John, we forgot how freaking good this guy is. So that's the Public Service Announcement Award.
I love that one because I think in terms of, he wasn't a surprise. He wasn't a breakout. But in terms of where he was to where he is now, I don't know if anybody really made as big of a statement this year than Kumar Rocker did, because I think he was becoming pretty forgotten. I was ready to potentially relegate him to more of a high leverage bullpen role potentially, just because between the arm injuries and just the lack of command at points. He's throwing strikes with the best of them now. The stuff is crazy. I love it. He reintroduced himself, I think, even better now too. He's came back from summer vacation even more jacked basically, and everyone's like, whoa, look at Kumar now. It's even better than we remembered it, and we remembered a very good Kumar Rocker. So I think baseball is in a great spot with some of these storylines in the minor leagues, and I'm hoping Andrew Painter is going to be the latest example of that. Of hey, let me reintroduce myself as well. Obviously, Kumar has a lot more layers to it, though, and that's why it makes it even more satisfying to see him doing what he is doing.
Yep.
That'll do it for this episode. We will have plenty for you throughout the week. Speaking of Kumar Rocker and the Rangers, going to do the Ranger system. I know I said D-backs. Just classic me. I know. I really started to get into the Ranger system, and I got lost. So I'm almost done with it. The good news is that means we'll have the D-backs turned around really quickly after that. I also felt weird releasing it within the week of everything happening, and just the disappointed fans. I felt like they just didn't want to hear about the farm, but maybe in a week or two they'll want something else to pay attention to. So we're going to go Ranger system, which I'm amped about. I think it's actually the most underrated pitching stable in the minor leagues. We're going to get into that. That's why I ended up getting so deep into the rabbit hole here and wanting to talk about this farm. So that will be done this week. Very excited to talk about that. Some other fun stuff coming up as well. But as always, we will be talking to you at least one more time this week. I think we'll get 2 more in, and then we will be out there in Arizona giving you coverage, video, interviews, all that good stuff. So stay tuned there. Stay up to date with our newsletter as well, so you can keep up with our coverage. I'm going to be doing a lot of written stuff on justbaseball.com, kind of game notes, things that stood out to me every couple games that I go to, so you can stay up to date with what I'm seeing out there. I'll also have some data baked into those, so you can get some more info, get some edges there, especially if you're a dynasty player or looking for some cards, or just want to keep up with the prospects out there. So keep up with the newsletter, because you'll get those information, like those articles, sent to you. The link to subscribe to the newsletters in our episode description, but also keep up with our social media channels on Instagram and X as well. As always, thank you for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you later this week.